DCEU introduces a ton of new heroes this week because of Black Adam, and this is going to be an exciting new ranking for the DCEU heroes ranked from worst to best. Now, I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section on what your ranking is. I'll put a list of them down there, that way you can copy, paste, do what you need to do, as well as make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I do have one more DCEU ranking coming out for the villains of all the DCU movies, and then we're probably going to start moving into Black Panther Wakanda Forever phase on this channel. But without further ado, let's dive into this ranking right now. To understand, there is some wiggle room in here. There might be some heroes that I didn't include in here because maybe I just view them as side characters, and as it is, the Suicide Squad personally for me is a bunch of villains, but they're doing good. I don't include any of them on here, but the other thing to also look at this is Black Adam is technically an anti-hero, even though a lot of the logos and tagline is saying he ain't no hero. If you've seen the movie, you clearly know he is a hero. With that said, again, let's dive right into it now. At my number 18 is Atom Smasher. This is Noah Ciento's brand new character in the JSA within Black Adam, and I honestly have nothing against him personally. I just don't think there's anything about this character. Cool suit, cool power, but other than that, I just found myself rolling my eyes at the usage of this character. They used him as a comedic relief. I didn't find really any of his jokes funny. He had some good banter with Cyclone in this movie, but other than that, I just found myself going, meh. That brings me to my number 17, which is Mera from Aquaman. Now, this isn't just because of all the Amber Heard drama. I almost said Amber Turd because that was the joke going around forever. I can't believe I almost did that, but it's not because of that. Mera, for me, is a character that I feel like is badass in essence when you look at her in action scenes, but as a story-wise, there's not much there for me with her. And maybe Aquaman 2 will change that, but from what I understand, she's barely in the movie. At my number 16 is Montoya from Birds of Prey. Some cool thematics with this character, but other than that, this is another one of those characters I watch, I enjoy, but I don't get a lot of. At my number 15, we have Huntress. Now, this is a Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She is an amazing actress. She can do anything, but Huntress is actually one of the most underdeveloped and underused characters right alongside Montoya in Birds of Prey, and I actually wish we would have gotten a sequel or just another film with Huntress because I think she's a unique character that I'd like to see more of. At my number 14, we have Cyclone. Now, Cyclone's a little bit up on this list because if we're just going basis just off character development, she'd be right down smack at the bottom with Atom Smasher, but as we look at this character, I think her costume's awesome. I think the performance was really adding a lot to the character, and I love the power set. I think this is a character that I want to learn more about. Even if a lot of her lines were a little bit exposition heavy, I'd like to see more. Now, my number 13 is Black Canary. Now, this is a character that I think is established very well in the DCU, but we need more of Smollett as this character. And I know there's a rumor that she potentially might be getting either her own movie or show. I hope this actually comes into fruition because once that does, I actually might come to love her even more. Now, my number 12 is The Flash. Now, it's hard to, this is the one character that's actually really hard to differentiate because it's so attached to one person right now, and I'm not even going to say that one person's name. And I liked the interpretation of this Flash in Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. Maybe that's because of the epic score in there. Maybe it's because of that one specific scene of the Flash when he's reversing back time. That is the reason that he's not at the bottom of this. Other than that, I don't have enough of this character to really talk about. Maybe after we see the movie, I can talk a little bit more about him being higher on this list. Now, at my number 11, we have Steve Trevor. I think Steve Trevor, Chris Pine, does an amazing job in this role. He's a little bit lower on this list than I probably would have initially put him just because of what he got to do in 1984 and some of the plot holes within there that you don't really think about, but I do think Chris Pine is great in the role, and I think when you look at definitive heroes in the DCEU, he is one of those. Now, at my number 10, we have Aquaman. Jason Momoa absolutely kills it in this role, and I think for me, Aquaman 2 is going to be the film that actually elevates this character to an even higher degree when it comes down to this ranking, and again, we'll probably end up re-ranking him when it comes down to that, but for me, when I look at Aquaman, we don't have a lot of live action stuff to look at with this character, and I think Jason Momoa just really embodies a different version of this character that I thoroughly enjoy. I think he's entertaining. I think he's fun. He has a lot of heart, and where you see his character start out at in Zack Snyder's Justice League and then go to Aquaman next, there's a lot of development there, and I'm excited to see him next in the DCEU. Coming out, my number 9 is Cyborg. Now, if we were just going off the Justice League version, hands down, yes, this is one of the worst characters in the entire DCEU just because of just the way that it was written and shown, but once you see Zack Snyder's version, it kind of changes everything. If Superman is the heart of of that movie, Cyborg is the soul of that film, and how Zack Snyder used Ray Fisher's performance and just in general used that character in that film is one of the best interpretations of that character, and it's absolutely saddening that we are not getting more of Ray Fisher's Cyborg. I know The Rock may have just saved another character, so hopefully, when I say this, hopefully we get a little bit more of him in the future. Maybe The Rock can come in and do something for that, but I love Cyborg, and I hope to see more of him in the future. At number 8, we have Hawkman. Now, he just made his debut in Black Adam as the JSA's leader, and honestly, for me, this is really much just more of a performance avenue, and I think Aldous Hodge killed it in the role as Hawkman, and specifically some of the costume design on his character. The mask that they use, you can see so much emotion just in Aldous Hodge's eyes that I think this even elevates it more. His character's badass. I had such a great introduction. Not a lot of emotional weight on this one, but this is definitely some more biasness put on this character. Now, my number 7 is Dr. Fate. Now, again, you might call this recency biasy, but I don't care, because I find Dr. Fate to be one of my favorite DC characters, and the way that they actually transformed him and brought him into the DCEU was elevated to such a high standard because of some of the mythology they put on this character. There's a lot you can still explore with this character, and I want to see more of that. Pierce Brosnan absolutely just comes in charming and suave, and really much has some of the most impactful and badass moments in Black Adam, and I could not get enough of that character. At my number 6, we have the brand new title character, Black Adam. Now, technically, he is an anti-hero, so let's keep that in mind. He's not a full-fledged hero, which is kind of the reason that I put him more at my number 6, but I do think The Rock actually embodies this character. This is the character that he was born to play. If we're looking at all of his performances in his entire career, this is his best performance as transforming to a character. And you could just say, oh, well, I just see The Rock, but I actually saw more than that. And I think he fits the suit. He is badass in every way. They really brought this unspeakable and unstoppable superhuman to the DCEU in a very relatable way, but at the same time you understand, and there are certain things about his character that I was thoroughly impressed with, specifically the way that it adds to the mythology of Shazam. And that brings me to my number 5, which is Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I want more of this character. I hope Wonder Woman 3 can come out and absolutely excel and be one of the best films in the DCEU. I think Gal Gadot is absolutely perfect in this role, which is something that I would have never said when she was casted originally in Batman v Superman, but she's badass, she's impactful, she's beautiful, and she's very charming, and I think she's delightful in this role. Now, at my number 4, we have Shazam! I love Shazam. Shazam is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. I love the fact that it's a kid that can turn into a superhero at just saying one word, and he's like almost as powerful as Superman, if not as powerful as Superman, and I think Zachary Levi was casted perfectly in this role. It was one of the most important castings for me because I remember when that happened, I went, there's no way they casted Chuck from NBC's awesome show as Shazam. They did. And I think he's one of the most deserving actors in Hollywood. And to see Shazam just in the front light makes me so happy. And number 3 is Harley Quinn. Now, a lot of you guys might be arguing, but Zach, you said you were not going to really include any Suicide Squad characters in here. That is true. I said that. But Harley Quinn's a little bit different because when you watch Birds of Prey, she technically is a hero in there. And that is her movie. That is the film that she gets the most development in. And while she's awesome in both versions of the Suicide Squad, no matter what you say, Birds of Prey is probably her best performance, just from the fact in certain avenues that she gets in there, and she is technically a hero in that film. I thoroughly love Margot Robbie. I think if you were to do a Mount Rushmore of DC actors who have played characters in the DC universe, she would be flat out up there with Heath Ledger as the Joker. I think she's incredible. I think she's irreplaceable, even though I know Lady Gaga is going to play a new version of Harley Quinn in the new Joker 2 sequel, but separate universes, and from what we understand, James Gunn has said Margot Robbie will be back as Harley Quinn, so I'm excited to see what they do there. And at my number 2 now, we have Ben Affleck's Batman. Now, for me, if it was just specifically talking about DC as a whole, Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. The thing with it, though, is that I think definitively I just want more of Ben Affleck's Batman to really surpass the other versions in my head. He's probably my second or third favorite Batman of all time, and I know that's very blasphemy for some of you, but I think his performance is absolutely great. He really embodies The Dark Knight Returns, which is my favorite Batman comic of all time. I think he plays really well into a grisly old Batman and Bruce Wayne. His Bruce Wayne's great, his Batman's great, and I think seeing this version in the Justice League was awesome. He's badass, he's huge as hell, and I love how he interprets his character. I have no real flesh to it all. I don't really care that he kills people. Like, it does not bother me. It works for the context of the story. I know that might bother some people, but this is at my number 2, almost my number 1 if he had a solo film. But that's where it brings me to my number 1, and my number 1 is Henry Cavill's Superman. Henry Cavill is one of my favorite actors working right now, one of the most underrated actors working right now, and for me, his version of Superman is absolutely impeccable, impressive, and the Superman that I've always wanted to see on the big screen. Again, which might be blasphemy for some of you who love Christopher Reeves. I love Christopher Reeves too, but when I look at this character, I don't want a Boy Scout. I want someone who is going to do that dirty stuff at times. And I think Man of Steel is the perfect character study for someone who doesn't know what or who he should be in this universe yet. I think this movie is impressive, it is underrated, and I think all of you guys should absolutely go back and revisit it. And I am so happy that it is now confirmed that he is getting his own sequel once again, and that they are currently looking for a writer. I hope it actually happens. I always get nervous when DC announces stuff, because sometimes it never actually happens. But with that said, guys, that is my DCEU hero ranking. Let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts. Once again, I can't remind you to say that enough. I got a DCEU villain ranking coming up soon. So, of course, until next time, stay classy.